also. Just a second. Put the streaming on. Excuse me, just some technical things. We are streaming on our idea Facebook page so that people can watch. So it was more that people, it's open for people who want to watch than people coming on the Zoom. Okay. I have no idea why it doesn't want to log into my Zoom, Facebook. Just 1 minute, sorry. Right. One minute.
Yeah, hello, welcome to this talk with the Executive Board of the WAAE, the World Alliance for Arts Education, in the IDEA Congress today in Iceland. And we talk about arts education in an ever-changing world. And of course, we talk about advocacy for and work in arts education in the complex world today. And WAAE is I, that's the good thing, that's a possibility, the chance, and the challenge of course, for WAAE. It's I with UNESCO, yeah, because it's an international association and it represents the civil society associations for the 4 fields of art education which are organized in associations. So I welcome Teresa Ecker. Yeah, hello, Teresa, from INSEA. And I think you will present yourself afterwards, yeah, in person. And I say welcome to Emily Acuno, yeah, from ISME, the Music Association, and Rolf Buck from the World Dance Alliance, and of course, live here present, Sanja Krasmanovic-Tasic from the IDEA. And I have some introducing words, and then we'll start. We are in an important moment in the middle of 2022 in terms of the cooperation is not the right word, in terms of the discussion between WAAE and UNESCO and talk about art education in the world, because we have this documents from 2006, from 2010. I will not refer to all of them now. There is not time enough, but you know them. And the initiative from the Frankfurt International Conference, which are organized for WAAE in Frankfurt, Germany in 2019, which came in a right moment to remind UNESCO that there are these important documents and aims and what happened in these 9 years or 10 years. And in fact, UNESCO decided in 2019 and in 2021 to give attention to arts education again in terms of establishing again their secretary for education and for arts education, and to do something for the evaluation of the 2010 Seoul agenda, and making new political steps for arts education regarding changing world. Therefore, it is. Thank you for this topic today, because they say this. The UNESCO also says this. Yeah? It says, okay, the changing world and climate change and all the other things, there can be a big contribution from arts education to our children and youth, and of course also to grown-ups. And also in terms of digitalization and climate change, I already said. So there was already this decision to revitalize the movement for arts education, yeah, according to WAAE aims, but no money. So there was already the application or the initiative from the United Arab Emirates to have a conference in the end of 2023, the next big international conference on art education. But I didn't find anybody who knows something about the steps forward to have this conference in 2023. And and UNESCO have meetings, of course. Yeah, they had some weeks ago a meeting in Korea about art education, which they say, oh, this was a wonderful meeting, but we had 25 experts present. Okay, so the UNESCO education sector says they need push and help from voluntary initiatives, from civil society, so to say, from us. The documents say that arts education can work a lot for solving and finding ways through the actual world challenges. So it's not, we don't have to convince them that arts education is as a good instrument for, for solving these challenges and problems we are confronted with in the world. Yeah, no, that's not the problem. They say, yes, arts education will do that and help. Yeah, that's not the problem, and not our task, obviously, to convince them. Yeah, but it's a task to find ways of collaborative pushing, yeah, policy, and to strengthen art education in formal and non-formal education instead of limiting policy or on projects, yeah? Projects only. So I don't want to go into details because you know these details and you know even better. And please, so I may ask you, Ralph, to start with this discussion.
Thank you, Joachim. Kia ora, everyone. My name is Ralph Buck, and I am the representative from the World Dance Alliance. I am the chair of the Education and Training Network. And this evening, it's evening here in New Zealand. I'm sitting in New Zealand. It's 1:15 in the morning, and it's quite cold, and I'm in my office. And I'm going to talk briefly about a bit of research that I've been doing in Australia that I started earlier this year. And it picks up on some of the points that Joachim just mentioned. A world of incredible change with the pandemic, but more importantly, the big issues of climate change, border tensions, artificial intelligence, economic inequities, etc. So scientists and healthcare workers are attending to these immediate concerns with solutions such as vaccines and ongoing providing invaluable long-term statistical modeling and research. With the same sense of urgency, educationalists need to also find solutions to immediate teaching and learning challenges regarding equity of access, technology, and relevance. Importantly, educators have a clear and important role in reimagining the future of education that will respond to present concerns and better prepare future generations and our wider society for pressing challenges. My talk asks, how can education respond to the changing world that is increasingly under threat of population growth, climate change, etc.? More specifically, how can dance education respond to our changing world and our changing learners' needs? Ultimately, I ask, how can dance education remain relevant within school education within Australia? Speaking with teachers and key dance educators in Australia, I want to reflect on some of the responses that I've heard so far. So I've interviewed about 40 teachers throughout Australia, and I asked 4 questions. The questions were, how can dance education remain relevant in our changing society? The second question, what should teachers in Australia continue to do? The third question, what should teachers stop doing or abandon? And the fourth question, what should teachers and education leaders reimagine in order to keep dance education relevant in our schools? So the big picture is, how are we going to keep our arts education relevant in a changing world, which is basically the topic of tonight's talk. So the talk that I'm offering accepts UNESCO's invitation from the International Commission on the Futures of Education to reimagine the future of education. In examining teachers and dance leaders' perspectives of the above questions, I eventually aim to represent a snapshot of ways forward for dance education in Australia in respect to change. As UNESCO states, we urgently need to reimagine our futures together and take action to realize them. Knowledge and learning are the basis for renewal and transformation. But global disparities and a pressing need to reimagine why, how, what, where, and when we learn mean that education is not doing what it could help us to shape peaceful, just, and sustainable futures. So what did I find out? So I'm not going to go into all the detail. I'm just going to go straight to a summary of some of the main points that I've heard so far. And some of these points are disarmingly simple. The first one is ridiculously simple, but it's important. Dance education will remain relevant when we continue to dance, as in focus on the actual moving of the body, dancing, the doing it, and trust that the doing will show a particular way of knowing. The second point there was that most people believe that we should be prioritizing primary school education. So that are the younger learners. That's where we should be putting our emphasis if we want to have longer impact and change in the education system. So again, I've heard we want to support primary school teachers as the priority. The third point, dance education will remain relevant when we attend to the idea of fostering transdisciplinary learning across the curriculum. That is, integrating the different subjects in the curriculum in such a way that the arts, or in this case dance, can be a vehicle for other learning areas, as well as being a learning area in itself. And a key point that people kept saying was, we need our curriculum and the arts education to relate to real world concerns, and picking up on key topics like ocean well-being, climate change, etc., in an integrated transdisciplinary way was going to be a useful way of using arts education. My fourth point that teachers kept saying was prioritizing process over product. It's how the kids are learning and how they're using their logic and their their language, etc., to make solutions rather than just focusing on making a final product. So it's the way of working together, making a community of learners as you make a community in the classroom. It was important. The next point that we have to continue doing is advocacy, advocating to key stakeholders, such as, importantly, parents. And they were the most important stakeholders that keep coming up. And the advocacy to focus on the 21st century skills, the role of dance in community making, the function of dance in diverse cultures, the rigor of dance, the role dance has in forming cultural and personal identity, and so on. I mean, you can take the word dance out and put drama in, or music or visual arts, and have similar findings, I think. But the key thing was advocating to stakeholders, and that does not necessarily mean politicians, but parents. Final points. Dance education will remain relevant when we attend to wider social and cultural relevance of dancing community and making the fostering of well-being and a focus. A word that kept coming up was well-being and caring, the need to care for others in and through our art forms. And part of that was the whole idea of the teachers working with the learners, not at or on the learners. A lot of the teachers feel that your learners now want a lot more input into what's going on in the classrooms and how education progresses. So a key word was with. It doesn't deny the expertise that teachers bring. It just wants to accept that kids come with something as well. And my last point that I've heard is that dance will remain relevant in our changing world when it's fun. And again, that sounds overly simplistic, but if it's fun, physical, focus on the personal well-being and engaging, then learners will turn up. And I can assure you that's one of the biggest challenges in the world of pandemic and climate change, is just having people turn up, turning on their cameras, turning on their microphones, etc. It's a nightmare talking and teaching to blank screens and blank faces. So I won't go on anymore because that's quite a lot, but that's what my little bit of research is finding in this world of change, in this world, you know, UNESCO is wanting ways forward and reimagining education. And this is what I'm finding in dance so far. So thank you very much, Joachim. Thank you very much, Sonia, for inviting me. I am getting over a little bit of COVID. And so I may not stay for the discussion at the end, but I'm finishing now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ralph. And as the Germans say, my thumbs are pressed for your house. So nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
In your region. Thank you for being awake for us.
It's a bonus, I can assure you.
Okay. So then can we go on with Teresa? Yeah, from INSEA.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. My greetings to IDEA members in Reykjavik, old friends, and I really want to thank you for being resilient and to meet in person. That is great, and we should do it more often. I'm sorry I cannot be with you right now. And also my thanks to Joachim and Sanya and all my colleagues from the Alliance. It has been a pleasure to work with all of them. Well, I learned so much during these years in the Alliance. So about what Joachim said and further Ralph developed also, I think there are some fallacies from the 20th century that we need to deconstruct, or at least to question. Like, for example, we are in the 21st century after COVID, after a crisis, during another crisis, and nobody knows what the future is or the futures will be. And I don't think we need prophecies, we need action. It's very nice that UNESCO wrote this report, a new social contract for education, where there are a few lines about art education, and they really are stressing on solidarity and empathy and on collaboration and transdisciplinarity. This is great, but we need to put this in action. And I believe that there is this fallacy that civil society needs to put things in action. That's okay, we need to work, but it's not enough. We really need advocacy, and we need UNESCO and other organizations, our local governments, to work more. I'm sorry, but they did almost nothing in the last years. And the proof is that dance and drama are not compulsory in great majority of schools, at least in Europe. And I suppose that the continent is exactly the same. So we are not really progressing in terms of the presence of art education in education. And worse than that, we have discrimination in access to art education. We always have, and things are not better. Rich people, rich kids, or very poor kids, they have access to art education activities. The big schools, they have art education, they have music, they have drama, they have dance, they have everything, because the parents, they can pay. And then you have also those communities at risks where the government say, okay, let's give them some art education or artistic activities because it's good for mental health, it's good for social cohesion and so on. And in between, there is nothing. And there's a large population of young people, of children with nothing. So I'm sorry, but I'm not happy with the state of the arts. I'm not happy with what UNESCO is doing right now. I think UNESCO should work more in terms of contacting the governments and pressing the governments, because the civil society, we know, we are already working for that. And everyone knows, everyone in education knows the contribution of art education is well written in many, many reports from UNESCO and universities and ONU and OCDE and other organizations. And I think this is really a fallacy, waiting for civil society to take action. We are already in action. That's the truth. We are working in schools, we are working in communities. So it's done. Now we need the people who are responsible for education to really accept the responsibility and go forward. So this is one thing I really wanted to stress about the work that UNESCO and the governments, our governments, are doing. The other fallacy I wanted to bring here is really about the paradigm of education, because all the last reports, there is no move towards this new social contract or this new paradigm on education. We are still, for example, talking about creative industries. It's good, we need to have art education to have economical development. It's not about that. It's not just about that. It's about something more important. It's about personal growth, social development. So I think sometimes if we go with these paradigms, stressing creativity, creative industries, we lose our focus, really, because our focus should be about the right of everyone, of every child, of every young people, and even every people, even adults, the right to art education in their lives. So that's why I'm a bit nervous about that. And well, another thing that I really think it's important there are many arguments about art education, because having music is good for maths, for example, or having dance is good for another thing, or having visual arts and so on. But we really need to stress that the arts are real important for art's sake, like this report by Ellen Lois and Goldstein, they state a report for the European Union. Arts are important because they are arts, not because they help other disciplines. I think we should really fight against this fallacy, because arts per se are important in humanity. And if we talk now in UNESCO about empathy, about solidarity, about emergent crisis and fight against crisis, or at least question the causes of the crisis, we need the arts, because they have this unique process of question and raising questions through our bodies, through our senses. So that's why I think we really need to fight against these paradigms and going to paradigms that bring us another education, an education for more systematic view, more planetarian, like Edgar Morin. Many years ago, he said, we need education for the planet, not for the countries, not for the global economy, but for localism. So that's my little talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Teresa. Yeah, and then now we have Emily from the Music Association.
Yes, thank you so much, Joachim, and thank you, Sanya, for having invited us. Thank you, IDEA, for hosting us. We love talking together, so when we find an opportunity to come together, we just grab the opportunity. And it is great that today we can talk about something that I think is very close to us. Like Ralph, I'm at the tail end of, this one was a bacterial infection. So the cough seems triggered by talking. So this is an opportunity where I think I'm going to do a lot of coughing, but it's all right, we'll get there. I really appreciate what both Ralph and Teresa have mentioned, and I might just refer to some of the things they said as I speak on. I'm focusing really on just three things. If the broad title was advocating for perhaps, and working in the field of arts and arts education in the complex world that we live in today, I'm just from the ground, from the practice field, what is the complexity? Thanks, Ralph. So it's what is it that defines this, that characterizes the complexity of our existence? And I look at the students who come into my class right now. They have a concept of self that I never had. I think they see themselves very differently, and they take themselves very differently from the way I ever did, as perhaps at their age, or so I think. Maybe I did and I just have no idea. So sometimes you feel that there is a vulnerability, perhaps, globally, new forms of discrimination and exclusion and segregation. These form our existence. These are some of the complexities of the life that we live. There is also serious cultural diversity. And the cultural diversity, it is not that it wasn't there before, but because of the, quote, unlimited access to information, we are exposed a lot more to what is happening elsewhere. And so we get to see quite a bit. The consequences of enlightenment as a result of exposure, of more exposure. How about the erosion of geographic boundaries, the free flow of materials and ideas, materials of art and ideas of art? these are the complexities of our existence, the impact of knowledge, the impact of skills, the impact of technology on what we do in the name of arts, how we perceive the arts, and how we carry out arts education. And in such a way that we get ideas that have been developed in specific contexts. They come into our world, a totally different context, and we receive them and we probably try to apply them. And there's a bit of a clash, really, perhaps because of ideologies, because of worldviews. This is part of the complexity of our existence. And that reminds me that UNESCO is actually undergoing some review of certain policies that they've had. And it's important for us to be having this discussion. So I think of the challenges with that context of complexities of our existence. Perhaps just two elements that I would mention under challenges. And for me, the first challenge to working in the field of art and to advocating for art is the language or the vocabulary for explaining and understanding the concept of art and the concept of arts education. Again, because of the porous boundaries, ideas coming in and going out. What is it that I call art and I call arts education? Is this the same thing that Teresa would be calling art or arts education? And again, I don't know about where you are, but I am aware that there are languages in this world that may not have one word equivalent for the English term art. And I'll give you a simple example, music. I do not know what word in the language that you're most comfortable in corresponds to the English term music. In my country, a long time ago, when I did some research towards an academic qualification, I went finding out what the word music meant to my country people. And I would give the word music and ask them, can you give me the word in your language for music? And now my country has, I think, 3 of the 5 major linguistic groups that are found in Africa. I come from Kenya. And the largest communities fall under the Bantu languages. And for most of them, the word that they gave back to me in response to my question, what is music in your language, translates to song. And it is the same in my language, which is not Bantu. It is, I think we are Nilotic. And so that alone, I don't know if that helps us to appreciate what I mean by language and vocabulary. Sometimes vocabulary is, but when I use the word vocabulary, it is the experiences. When I experience something called art, called music, is it the same for you? So when I'll be talking about art, and I'll be talking about theater, I'm talking about dance, and I'm talking about fine art or drawing or design, do you understand? Is it the same thing that we're talking about? And I like the way, is it Ralph was talking about the process, as the respondents indicating that the process were to be held, perhaps esteemed a little more than the product, that we need to think about the process of art and process of art education, as opposed to just waiting for the art outcome, the vocabulary, the experiences that we go through that we refer to as art, experiencing art. And I'm not just talking about the aesthetic experience, aesthetic engagement. I'm talking about the community coming together, people bringing their thoughts together, people exchanging ideas, people sharing their spaces, and getting involved in an activity that brings satisfaction to themselves. And so our artistic expressions differ. And I think one of the challenges to advocacy is when perhaps the leadership of either our institutions or our governments those who hold the purse strings, when they think that the concept of what we are calling art or arts education is a foreign element, then definitely it's going to be difficult to advocate for art, because a lot of people are perhaps now looking more inwards. What are we doing? How are we developing our learners within our spaces? In Kenya, for example, our constitution, we still call it the new constitution, but apparently it's 12 years old. Oh my goodness, it is a 2010 constitution, but we call it the new constitution. It signifies culture as the foundation of our constitution. And of course, the constitution is a basis for so many of our policies and so many of our laws. So what we're saying is that culture is at the basis. Now, if culture includes the language that we use for expressing what we do, then you will appreciate that when something is brought in or expressed in a language, in a vocabulary that is a little different from what everybody's used to, it is going to be suspiciously held at bay. So advocacy, one of the challenges to advocacy and practice is language, is vocabulary. The second one that I want to mention, and I think Teresa may have touched on it perhaps in a different way, is our perceived role, the perceived value, the perceived function of the arts. I think that is very important. I don't think we put anything in education that we do not value. I don't think we engage in an activity whose function in our day-to-day existence we are not sure of, we do not hold in high esteem. There are communities where art is what people do, and or how people do things. It's either what people do, I mean, that is art, or how people do things, that is art. And so it is so rampant, it is everywhere. It's the word ubiquity, okay? And somebody's going to ask you, why would you be spending national resources on what is common? And that is a question that somebody might ask you. And so we just want to consider that, and maybe that is why in some communities, in some regions, we might find it easier to legitimize arts education under the umbrella of the creative economy. We might just find that. So again, our national philosophies for arts education, what do they say? Do we have any? And who is involved in drawing them? I think that is crucial. And I think those of us in this forum are key stakeholders, because we have the vocabulary, we have the conviction that art is significant, is important, and therefore arts education is a must. Shall I say a must again? It's a must really at whatever level. And Teresa, I think, was it Teresa or Ralph who mentioned the right to arts education? I think this is important. The International Music Council has 5 music rights. And if we go on the website, we'll be able to find them. And they really speak to the globe. The first 3 speak perhaps to, I'm trying to remember. I know I split them into 3 and 2. Some speaking for the general music practice for everybody, the right to every individual to an arts education. And then the others speak to a lot more of the professional within the art, to a right to fair remuneration for starters, and that is for the artists. So these rights, I think it is important, and we can only be talking about these rights if we have an understanding of the role or the value or the function of the arts in human existence. Now for the solutions, I'm coming to an end. For the solutions, again, my perceived solutions that perhaps based on the issues I have raised is I think it is important, colleagues, that we take time, we make time to decipher within our geographic, philosophical, ideological, economic, all of those contexts, what art is. And it may change every time. What is art? So in our diverse contexts, the concept and the manifestation of arts the place of the arts in human existence. I think that is important. That is going to help us with our advocacy. And let's also remember that the way advocacy is going to work, for example, in Portugal, is probably very different from the way that it will work in Namibia. I just mentioned 2 places. I think also, I mean, in terms of making time to decipher what art is, I think for arts education to signify relevance and value of art within the context of its makers. I mean, let me go back, that we want to position or to articulate arts education as something that is relevant and of value within the context of its makers. Is the concern economy? Then the arts are really a thriving entrepreneurial space. Is the concern human dignity? Then the arts contain the notions of respect and value that enable us to see the other person's point of view. Let me stop there. And that takes me then to inclusion. Perhaps we consider art as a way of seeing our world, and arts education, therefore, as a sensitization about human existence, about human relations. And then lastly, I think one of the solutions that I would prefer is investment of 2 things. Well, it's resources really, but the first resource that we want to see invested in art is time. Do we make time for art and arts education? And I think Ralph's people indicated that it should start in childhood. For me, that's really the best time. And then we want to look for the excellent human resources. I come from a community that has traditionally had an oral culture. And in our oral cultures, the best artist is the one that we would approach to teach, because we've seen what they can do and we want to be like them. So we will go to them. So are we investing in the quality human resources? Is arts teacher education a priority for our nations? Let me stop there. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, thank you so much, Emily. And now we go to this place where we are here.
Figure out.
Introducing Sanja Kasmanovic-Tasic. Thank you so much for initiating this meeting and this talk.
Thank you, Joachim. It is a pleasure. And I will try to address the live audience as well and address you in the same time. What I want to say is that there is always a question why this alliance that came to life and that now is existing for quite a long time. And I think it's a very important thing that happened when the alliance was formed. I always think about the story about the chopsticks. Maybe you know about that. It is, if it's very easy to break one chopstick. But if you take 4 chopsticks or even more, a bunch of chopsticks, it is impossible to break them. So to come together in solidarity, and as you said, really it is so important to be aware that drama, theater, and dance are not in many schools. And I admire so much your solidarity, especially, of course, Teresa and Emily, because your organizations, the support idea, because together we can change the world and together we can try to get as much of art education in all levels for all children, young people, adults, seniors even. For me, it's a great joy when I find that senior people discover art, discover the artists in themselves and start to work in any field of art. For me, it's something very, very special. So I want to just say that here in Reykjavik, I'm so sorry I miss you, my dear friends, that you're not here, because it is an amazing city. It is an amazing country, island. And I have been passing in the university where I'm staying all the time by a sign that says, I can only change the world as long as I'm alive. I can only change the world as long as I am alive. What does it mean? Well, we have just one simple and only life. It is really our decision what we want to do with this life and what change we want to see in the world. It is one simple step of each of us that will make a huge step for everyone. So it is really, we should never diminish our influence and what we do, because it is actually our joint small steps that will make giant steps, and we will make a difference. This is for me really important. I want to talk more from my practice, because first of all, I am a practitioner. So in 2019, I was working with a group of young actors, teenagers, and we were developing a performance called The Tale About Aska. I really wanted to focus on important subjects. And one of the important subjects was, in that town, there was a terrible pollution. There was a new factory that was actually run by a Chinese firm, and they did not put any of these, chimneys that should protect the village, this town. So they had terrible, terrible pollution everywhere. And the kids were really aware of that, and they said, let's make a performance about pollution. So our performance was a dystopian future story about some young children living, and it's actually devised theater. The story came up from the interaction and work and process with the children, with the teenagers. So the story is about this group of young children that are actually somewhere in some strange dystopian future that have to wear masks all the time and have to run. And it's so polluted that they can only have air in jars. So when they arrive, they quickly open the jars and they breathe in, otherwise they cough. And they had even a choir, because Emily, you mentioned the coughing. So we had a choir of coughing. So the kids were everywhere. We had a conductor, and they were coughing. It was like a beautiful music to the ears. We didn't have any authority, but the authorities were the cameras around us. The camera, and it was the ones that care, that are watching us through the cameras, the wonderful caring ones that are living in another reality. And the young people, they're all the time aware of the caring ones, they have to salute to them, they have to be kind to them, they have to smile all the time, even they don't feel like smiling. And they work in something called the school factory. So it's not a school, but it's actually a factory where these young people are slaves that are working all day, but convinced that they are in school and that they're learning something, but they're just doing mechanical things. And there is, of course, a turn, a revolution, and these children discover art, and they start to dance, and they dance in protest. So it's a theater performance that has a very strong message that together we can change things. What was incredible about this performance, it predicted the future, because the premiere was on 27th of December, 2019, and in March we were really hit hard with the pandemic. And what I realized was that this wonderful group of youngsters, teenagers, actually were prepared. They were prepared for the pandemic. They exactly knew how to behave. They knew what it is like to be with masks all the time, what it is like to be conducted by somebody from the TV or from some camera telling you what to do and what you must do and what you mustn't do. They were really prepared. They were so empowered, and they told me that. They said, you prepared us for this crisis. The interesting thing was actually that we performed it after in 2019, 2020, 21 on some occasional festivals that happened. There were just a few. And people were just saying, what a wonderful performance about the pandemic and about COVID. And it was not, it was done before. And this is, we are really preparing, children. We are preparing humanity for all that is in front of us. Art gives you so much security inside yourself. You are secure inside yourself. When playing an instrument, when drawing a beautiful picture or painting a picture, when dancing, when doing theater, that for me is a compilation of all the arts. I apologize, but I always say that because it's all costume and set and music and voice and and acting, of course, and directing. So I feel that we really have this incredible way to work on well-being, on healing, and on prevention, because we are empowering the young people. They will know, the children will know what it means to be somebody with integrity, somebody being able to express themselves, because they have experienced art and the creation of art. And I believe that is one of our most important, if I can say, something like a motto that we can use, that we can, when we are knocking on doors. And I completely agree with Teresa, because we are doing it. We are all, most of us are just associations. We are just NGOs. We are people, but we are so much in the field. And sometimes the government and official policies, they just boast with something that we did. But then in the next phase of the project, they do not support us. So it's a very hard, it's actually a tango we do all the time with the authorities and with the funding bodies. We have to be very clever and very wise and very flexible, but never give up and never stop doing what we are doing. And I really believe that this sentence is so important. I can only change the world as long as I am alive. So this is it. Thank you. I want to add one more thing. I have realized that in these crazy uncertain times, it is a heroic act, whatever we do. And for me, it is a miracle that so many people arrived from all over the world because of drama, theater, and education. And for me, it is such a gift, really. And I'm really so happy beyond words, really excited and happy. And I know that we will have a very good Congress because the themes are exactly touching our theme of today's panel. It is how arts education work in an ever-changing world and what we can do. So I am really excited about all the workshops and paper presentations that we will see now at the Congress. So Joachim.
Yeah, thank you so much, Samia. And I think we all wish that you live so long. Yeah. Okay. I'm not quite sure whether we just open the floor for questions from the audience, or if you want to address something you have already said. But perhaps it's best, and we have here many persons who know the World Alliance, have been to events from the World Alliance, and we have even here the former speaker of the Presidential Council of the World Alliance, Robin, and others.
Larry.
So, yeah. Sorry, Larry. But okay. So I think we just have questions from you. Oh, statements, proposals.
If I can say what we will do, we will turn the camera to the people who are speaking, and we just ask you to speak a little more loudly, because I think the microphone is in this computer. So yes, Jeff.
Yes.
Can you please present yourself? Yes. Yes, please, because of the panelists.
Oh, come here, you mean?
No, just say
Okay.
your name, where you're
I'm
from.
Jeff Redmond from the UK, Chair of National Drama. I've already said a little bit about this, but I'd like to just respond. I mean, obviously, it's an arts education debate seminar. that were attending. And there is, of course, I warmly celebrate the arts as education and the benefits of finding the common links, the common concepts across each of the subjects. But in my experience, there is a hierarchy of arts and in all kinds of different cultures. And drama and theatre is at the bottom of that hierarchy. Sometimes it's dance. I know the gentleman's gone who was representing dance. Sometimes it's dance, but in the main, strangely, it's drama and theatre when it appears in the curriculum. What I want to say is that I feel that we all know that drama is an art form. It has identifiable elements. It is an identifiable subject. And that is the case when it is used as a learning medium. So in your powerful example, you know, it is a learning medium for preparation for a pandemic that we didn't know was going to come. In your powerful example, it's about important environmental issues that young people should be taking responsibility for. But when drama happens, it happens in groups and it happens in the moment. I know it does move into theatre, and the theatre, I'm not, but many theatre practitioners would say we are looking for in the moment exploration as well. And when it happens in the moment, I think we as teachers, we recognize something different about that art form. You know, we recognize when a child sometimes doesn't speak and there is a pause and a silence. We don't see it as an inability to speak. We don't see it as a problem. We see it as a quality. The child knows, the child is making a silent contribution, which is impacting. We're not seeking, usually, I mean, the government would wish that we were always looking for outcomes. I know one of the inputters spoke about that. That's in the UK. I can't speak for anywhere else. But in the UK, they're looking for us to make up. But it is in the moment of interaction when our art thrives. And children teach us what they know and didn't yet know they knew. They are doing what you were talking about in your theatre work. So it's just a plea from me. Let's keep talking about drama and theatre and acknowledging the greater family of the arts. But let's keep talking about what it is that we do and what it is that is so important, because we'll disappear if we don't. That's how serious the situation is. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Other voices, please. Yeah. Robin?
Hello, everyone, and hi to Teresa and Emily. I see that Ralph has taken his COVID home. But one thing I think that we must never forget is the impact of working together. The 2019 Frankfurt Declaration continues to have importance in the wider world. Just this last week, I have been contacted by people in Taiwan who want to actually run a conference based upon the Frankfurt Declaration. So I think that that's actually worth reminding ourselves about the power of working together in the way that we have been. And also to acknowledge the work that everyone did, mostly Joachim, in bringing us together in Frankfurt. So thank you, Joachim, but also know that it keeps going and we need to keep thinking about it. We think about 2006, we think about 2010, we think about 2019. We now need to think about 2025 and 2030.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, Maria, would you mind
Coming closer,
coming a
please.
little closer?
Because of the.
Well, I can speak very loud. Competition.
Maybe
But
here.
Yeah.
Can you
Oh, yeah,
speak
for the
by
camera. Okay,
Jeffrey,
sorry.
please?
Yeah, okay, sorry. Maria van Baakelen from France and the Netherlands. Is there in the WAAE a strategy to convince and make a plea to UNESCO, not about our aims. Joachim was very clear, not about our aims, but to get it on their financial budget. Because I think we are all quite convinced about the importance. We need each other. We can enforce each other. But I think UNESCO, sorry to say, is making use of our very spare, rare time of always counting on the voluntarily base. And I really am irritated about it, disappointed, and I want to know how we can develop a strategy together to make clear to UNESCO that is not the path they should continue to go, and not force us to follow them in that path.
Of course, I would love to say something. but
Yes, why
you're
not?
first. No, no, no.
No, no.
No.
But I think this is a question that we could address, and I think one of the things is that financially, I think UNESCO is in a very bad position, and this is what we are aware of, that their finances are really cut, that it is very hard to even get to them. As you remember, when we did Where Do We Stand, Kelong just sent a video, and last time we contacted him for something for WAAE, I think we did not get too much response, but maybe my colleagues could say more. Yes, Teresa.
Well, thank you, Marie, for your question, and thank you, Robin, and everyone. So I think in terms of pressing UNESCO, it's good because UNESCO can then report to the governments. That is the hierarchical way they have. And sometimes the government, they read it, sometimes they don't read it. And from the point of view of the Alliance, I think we are really very strong network because we have the music, we have ISMA, we have IDEA, and we have the World Dance Alliance and INSEA, where I come from, the International Society for Education Through Art. And we have really a very strong voice because we represent people, we represent practitioners, and in terms of numbers, we have huge numbers of people that we can press UNESCO. And also, I think the work for the Alliance, if everyone agrees, of course, is also to work at local levels and write to the governments and asking them to put more money on resources, on teacher training, on time, like something that Emily said, and others. We need to allocate time, not for clubs, but curricular time. So I think it's a very good proposal that we can have from this Congress in Reykjavik, from IDEA. We can start to work also at local levels. It's, I think, right now in this moment, we need to think local. Also, of course, UNESCO, but UNESCO is a global organization and sometimes it gets lost in the armory. So that's my opinion.
Thank you. Let me also just
Yes.
chip in. Thank you. And I'd like to appreciate Marie, Robin, and Jeff. And Marie, I would, I think as both Sanya and Teresa have said, I would take that as the next thing to do, really, because I think it is important. And I think the arts educator's voice should be very visible at UNESCO. And I know of late UNESCO seems to be talking culture, not art, not arts education. But arts, if arts is a way of life, culture is a way of life, how do we get there? And for me, it is not a question of being diplomatic to try and read in culture, but to just, lobby, again, advocate for the articulation of the word art and arts education within the UNESCO discussions. And that is something that for me, I would really welcome. I would welcome. Robin, it's good seeing you. It's been a bit, it's been a bit. And thank you for reminding us of the Frankfurt Declaration. I think, as you mentioned, you know, the power of unity, of coming together. I think it is something that we would really be at fault if we forgot. Jeff, the hierarchy of the arts, I'd never thought about it that way. And yet, as you spoke, I'm just looking at my own situation back home, that we don't, in high school, we do not teach theater. It's not in the curriculum. But I did plays. Oh yes, we did Othello and we did Julius Caesar, you know, but it was part of literature. So maybe a lot of us have kind of thought it was okay because as part of literature, there was drama, there were plays, and I think what you're saying is important, that wherever we are, we want to now go into that advocacy to have this discipline called theater. And that goes for dance as well, by the way, because where I come from, again, we tend to do music and dance together. And that is perhaps from a cultural context that we just don't know how to sing without dancing. So the two just seem to go hand in hand. But if globally, we are able to conceptualize them as identifiable art forms, though that are related to the others, why can we not make a case for them in the curriculum? Identifiable, standalone, yet still connected to the others. And you know, when you mentioned hierarchy, I felt so sad. I really felt sad about it. But I think it is important that we do consider, as Ralph's respondents indicated, that the education starts at a very early age in the visual arts, in the performing arts of music, theater, and dance, you know, as separate yet all related entities. And for me, that is something that I'm taking home. And where I am, I'm going to see what I can do about it. Thank you for raising it. I choked on it when you mentioned that. Thank you so much.
I would like to say something, and that is that I think from all the art forms, theater and drama are the most dangerous for the ruling system, because what we develop is critical thinking. We are acting out unfairness that is happening around. We are really processing it very openly, because we also, in drama and theater, we have a voice. We can voice it out. We can have a thought that can be expressed. And we all know the impact that drama theater has in its directness and in working with the children, developing their critical thinking about where they are, where they live, how is the country functioning, what are the injustices that are happening. And I think this is one of the reasons, and Jeffrey, I completely agree. But I would say in my country, for example, dance is even in a lower level than in this, not in the schools, but drama, theater, we are pushing and we are there. But I think that this is it's dangerous. They really don't want it. Because why? You know, we had a young teacher who made a wonderful play called The Leader. And it was based on a story from a very old author, but criticizing the leader, the president, the leader of a country, of a nation. And he was not allowed to perform it in the school, because the school thought it was really like dangerous. It was censorship. So what he did it in front of the school, in the schoolyard. And he performed for 7 days in a row. His kids from the school that are his drama, because you know he's a teacher of Serbian language, but he's in love with drama and theater education. He's all the time doing it. And then they did it for 1 week, and people came from all over this town to see the performance. So it was even more subversive and strong than if he just did it in the school hall. So and actually, he was thankful for the principal of the school to do this. So I really have this theory that it's not that we are not being supported, but we are being oppressed. And we have to be very much aware of that and just continue fighting, because we need a free society. We need free societies in all corners of the world. I think there's somebody.
May I apologize? I think I referred to Jerry as Jeff. I'm sorry. I believe he's Jeffrey.
Okay.
He's Jeffrey. I'm sorry, Jeffrey. My apologies. Sorry.
He thinks, I think it's okay for you to somebody call you Jeff.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
It's fine. Thank you. I just want to say that Teresa said she's switching to the mobile phone. She's probably there, but she just had to switch from the computer to the mobile phone.
Yeah.
Yes, just to know.
She sent the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Hi, everyone. I don't know where to look. Hi. Hi. My name is Anna. I'm not quite sure where this comment is going to go, but I just had to speak up because I'm having one of those moments.
Where are you from?
I'm originally from Italy. I always say I'm professionally from the United States. I was there for more than a decade working in educational development, as we call our field. I am currently in Ireland, and I'm just having one of those moments in which I feel like I found my people. So I felt like I had to say that. This is my first IDEA conference. I identify professionally as an educational developer. So that means that I work across the disciplines with educators in higher ed, post-secondary settings. I don't know if there are any other educational developers, academic developers, or people that work in that type of field in this community, but I just wanted to say that it's a pleasure to join you all. You just said we're being oppressed. The theater of the oppressed plays a huge role in terms of how I think about the role of our educators in our society and how we help our learners grow as better people. That's all to say, I'm looking forward to hearing how this organization interacts with international organizations of educational development. And if that's not on the board yet, I would love to be a part of that and making that connection with our networks of educational development in the States, as well as I'm mapping out what the situation is in Ireland. I'm very new to the Irish system and to European system. I'm very much looking forward to hearing how the educational development crew can gather forces and have more drama infused into that, because I've been kind of doing that on my own a little bit here and there, smuggling the arts in, but we do that together, we're stronger together. So looking forward to learning.
Please do.
What's on that.
Yeah.
It
We
was
have two
Matthew,
more.
and then I think, yes, and you, and then your, sorry. It was
I guess I'll come all the way up since everyone else is coming.
Okay.
Hi, Matthew Sheehan. Oh, well, here, I'll sit right here. Very good. From the Council of Interior Drama and Dance Educators in Canada. And listening to you, actually, Emily, it's interesting. I liked your point when you said you were saddened by the discussion of hierarchy, because I think we should be saddened by that. But when Jeffrey was talking about England, I was thinking about my Ontario example, and the hierarchy is very much a thing, and it's deliberate. When I say it's deliberate in the sense that because like, and in our hierarchy, it's usually like music and visual arts at the top, and drama and dance at the bottom in that hierarchy. And we've been finding ways to work together, but funding wise, grant wise, etc. When you see power being concentrated in certain areas, it's meant to divide us in a sense, meaning that, like, you know, governments themselves. I mean, I like what Sonia just said about oppressing our work and what's most dangerous, because we are, I think what Robin's talking about and what Jeffrey's talking about, they're both so important. But at the same time, they exist in different realms. Like, you know, the fact that we can't ever lose a focus around drama or theater, but we are stronger when we're working together. But there is an active forces in many different places trying to create that divide and maintain that divide. And it's really hard. I know this from an Ontario example. I'm not going to get into specifics, but I see it play out where, like, people want to work together, but it's really hard to give up things like when they have more of a voice Like I will give a tangible example. I was working on a project with our physical education, the Gym Teachers Association, and they have a greater ear with the government and actual funding more so from the Ontario government than the arts do. And what I wanted to do was too subversive and too controversial for them, so they pulled away because they wouldn't work with me on that. They said they would gladly share the document, but they wouldn't sign off on it. So it's just an example of, like, you know, if people want to work together, but if you're actively feeling those forces from outside, especially government forces, et cetera, it sounds so ominous. There is deliberate, and I think coming together is great, but we have to also look out for what could be lost. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you wanted to, yes, could you please come? You can stand also.
I'm a bit excited to speak in front of everyone. Hi, my name is Anna. I'm from Malta. I'm a freelance applied drama practitioner, and I'm also a visiting lecturer at the University of Malta. I was a performer when I was younger, and that's what actually led me to research applied drama, to how it's made self-development in me, how I started to notice the changes in myself. So that's how I realized I could do applied drama. There were 2 points that I was thinking of. Being Maltese, we get funding from the Arts Council. I'm not saying Malta is perfect, not at all, but it works on a local level. So we get funding from Arts Council there. And every year there's some pushes from different people to put more funding in there. I never knew about the UNESCO part, for example, how UNESCO works. The other point I wanted to make was, I was talking to my nephew. They're lucky enough to have drama in the curriculum at school. And he was telling me, oh, drama is boring. But he was on one of my projects, and I know that he was very excited about it. That after the project finished, they continued playing with the puppets that we had made and continued to create drama and stories at home with me when we were in family gatherings. So I was thinking, why is this? And it's about the content as well. It's not just because it's available, then it's very powerful. So then I was talking to his mom a bit, like, tell me a bit more. Why is he so bored at school with this drama? He should feel lucky. And she was telling me that they do some monologues and some things like that, but not everybody's a performer. So not everybody would enjoy to have drama in the curriculum like that. And I found as well in my work that when I put the word drama in the community projects, I find that people actually don't engage in these projects because they don't want to be performers. They want to be part of a creative project, but they don't want to have a stage. So I do intergenerational work, older people and children. And one of the groups decided that they would put on a puppet show. So the process, this is something I love, the process is what's enriching, right? They wouldn't even stop for tea. They kept going, and the process was so enriching and stuff, but they said, you know, some of us don't even have family to come and watch, so we don't want to have that. We filmed it instead, because they didn't want an audience. And I found in my work that I actually changed the way I speak. I say creative, not drama. Because I found that when we say drama, sometimes it's a barrier for people that they have to actually stand, like even I'm like, I'm fine in a workshop setting, but when I'm speaking like this, it's a bit.
Me too.
It's a bit, you know, so yes, I found that using a little bit of a change of words, creative, and then putting a lot of different art forms together that engages different people. Some people might like clay making or puppetry, like I said, or sometimes just telling stories. One of the projects just wouldn't stop telling stories to each other and go home and read about more and share more stories, or bring artifacts with them and things. So they're happy to share that way, but they didn't want the audience back there. So that's just I wanted to share it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Yeah.
Yes, please. And hello, I'm Simon Sharkey. and I run an organisation called the Necessary Space. It's based in Scotland but works internationally. I'm also involved in the leadership committee of the International Teaching Artists Collaborative, and I'm engaged in a number of other global networks that work with artistry, art, culture, drama, theatre, dance, all of the art forms. And so it's really exciting for me to be here. This is my first idea conference. And I come with me with some knowledge and connection to other global networks. For example, I've just come from a conference in Bilbao that was titled the Wellbeing Summit, but it was talking directly about how does art change education, society, and the new paradigm that we're in. I'll be presenting in an Oslo conference with the International Teaching Artists Conference. And there, it's a global network that I helped set up some hubs that involves all the art forms in teaching artistry. I'll also be presenting at the Edinburgh Festival International Cultural Summit, which is where most of the world's cultural ambassadors and MPs, MSPs will gather in the Scottish Parliament in order to debate exactly this. In all of my experience in all of these networks, theatre, drama, dance, all of the arts, culture, creative industries, they're all being put to the fore and being debated and fought over and siloed. They're being siloed by people who want to make the money, who want to make the case, and who want to be able to say creative industries is this, and they want to be able to define it. The way theatre is this, dance is this. I think it's really, really important that we do not build silos. I have a phrase that I say, smash the silos, flatten the hierarchies. And if that is something that allows us to unite and coalesce as international networks, and then be able to bring all of that argument around a cohesive articulation of what it is that art, culture, creative industries, theatre, dance, visual arts, whatever it is, what does it do? And I think what that could be is that we promote artistry within the individual and within communities and within cultures. And I'm excited to hear all of these voices and be able to have conversations and debates about that. And just excited to be here. And yeah, I can share my contacts and see if there's a way that we can coalesce around making a real worldwide but hyper-local strategy for the arts.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think we have to close very soon. Yes. And I would like to say some words to this discussion from my side, and then give the voice again to you, to the three of you, yeah, for closing this session. So much. And I want to come back to what you just said and what was mentioned in some statements. That main thing is we have to avoid competition, yeah, and to find solidarity as civil society associations. That's one thing. Yeah? And from Germany, I can tell hundreds of stories about competition between music and fine arts, or fine arts and theater, or whatever, yeah, and even to other subjects in school, just to reach some own aims, yeah, which these aims are okay, but many people in our associations are not aware of that we will only go a real step forward, or we will be able to go a step forward if we do that together, yeah, and share things. and do activities together. And maybe this is one of the problems, that we have this ridiculous promotion or no proposal from UNESCO, or question from UNESCO, which is very ridiculous, to ask as the umbrella organization of sorry, my English, of governments, government organizations over the world, asking civil society for helping them financing things and going steps ahead. That's crazy. We have, I think we have the role to be together and try to be as strong as possible to push, to push those who have the power in the government to change systems, to change the educational system, to give money to this or to that, or into schools or informal education. That's what should happen. And we have to think about, in the actual situation, we should think about what can we do as an answer to UNESCO. We cannot say just, UNESCO, you're crazy, go ahead, or we don't believe you. That's what they would like to have. That we say, we have to address them. And if we want to be successful, we have to address them as a community. That's, I think, and we have to think, from my view, we have to think about how can we do that together? What are the steps we come together? And as well from the top, like WAAE and ISMA and INSEA and IDEA and World Dance Alliance, as umbrella associations, and from the bottom, so from the local and regional and state scenery, to address our governments. After 2006, I went to our Ministry of Education, and I was a teacher in this system. And I said, oh yes, we had this conference in Lisbon, and they said this and that. And then they said, oh, sorry, what is UNESCO? And this is, I talk about the Ministry of Education in our country, which is responsible for the educational system in our country. That's crazy, isn't it? So, top and bottom, and how to go on. We will not solve that problem today, but it's so good to be again in communication and discuss about these things. So, sorry, thank you all. I stop now.
Maybe some last words.
To you,
Yes, Emily and Teresa, could you just maybe share with us one more thought or something?
Thank you so much. I would really like to appreciate again the contribution from the colleagues. It's always exciting to hear what you do expressed in another language, in another art language, because the similarities are immense. But one thing that I'd just like to remind us is, if we can personalize what we do as artists, as arts educators, as arts education developers, we will find some satisfaction and we will find quite a bit of success. And I think that is important. I'd also like to just advise our members that this month, I think in 2 weeks' time, this team will be talking again at the ISME conference. And we will be talking about what we are doing, how in our various organizations, we are making the voice of the individual artist or arts educator visible. It sounds like very wrong English. Jeffrey from the UK, forgive me. Our theme is a visible voice. And of course, we expect things that are visible to be visual, not oral, not sound. But that is the ISME theme. And we shall have a panel I think Sanya will be able to let you know when it is. It is possible to have a day pass just to participate in that particular slot. And you're all welcome. Thank you all so much, IDEA, for having us. And it's great. It's been a good visit and a good interaction. And I believe this is not the end. Thank you so much.
Wow, my turn now to thank you. I was taking notes of everything you were talking about, because they're really very important issues and that the Alliance should take forward. And I think really it's so nice to have this joint voice against competitions and towards a unified voice, to work locally and globally, to work in our small communities, like you were saying, and also to pressure the global institutions. And as the Alliance is a global organization, the umbrella of small voices, we can bring those voices to UNESCO and other ONGs at a global level, but also we are the place where everyone can meet, and all the members of IDEA and ISME and the Dance Alliance and INSEA are members of the Alliance. Please don't forget that we are all together in the same boat. And in that boat, I would invite you to travel, to go to Madeira in March, because it will be the summit, the next World Summit of the Alliance. It will be 1st March in the island of Madeira. And so I invite you all to come, or in presence, in body, or only digital, but please come.
Thank you, Teresa. It's very symbolic that you mentioned the ship, that we are all in the same ship, because it is a symbol for us of IDEA sailing on the waters of the world for now 30 years, because it is our anniversary this year. What I want to say is it is very important to find stability and to train stability in young beings in this unstable world, because we don't know how much uncertainties in front of us. We don't know what is awaiting us, but we can really develop stability inside our own selves and inside the children, young people, seniors that we are working with through art. I really believe that. So it is something we should all think about, and we know how much well-being it brings. All arts education, all the fields that we are working in. So with this, we would like to end. Thank you so much for joining. Joachim, thank you also for being a very kind moderator. And we will write to Ralph and say thank you also to him. Yes.
So, no, thank you. That's it.
That's it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, see you in Madeira.